are going to go ahead and get started here pretty quick. I know we're doing virtual as well as in person, so I don't want to have anybody waiting there. But welcome, everyone. This is a case study on community impact, how to develop partnerships that'll help you maximize your students' achievement. Really important things that I know we all are focused on moving forward. So let's go ahead and get started. If I can get this to work here, 1 second. All right. I used to being over in front of everyone there, so I'm going to stand behind the podium so that this all works this morning. But first and foremost, my name is Laura Elsbrock, and I am an adult education coordinator for the Area 30 Adult Education Program. We are located in Greencastle, Indiana. We are a very small program, and we are basically in a city of the size of the city is about 10,000 people. Our county around 27, almost 28,000 people. So a small town. In terms of our program size, we currently are working toward 150 students this year. Last year, our total enrollment was 125. And that's actually gone up pretty significantly in the last 10 years. When I first started with the program, we saw about 50 to 75 students per year, and we're really focused primarily on the GED only. And then as we've changed over the years with WIOA and some of the things we're going to talk about today, that's been a big part of our growth, this move to talk to employers and begin to expand our integrated education and training options and so forth. So we'll talk a lot more about that. We have 2 locations. We have our main classrooms in our Career Center connected with our Career and Technical Education program. And then our second location is in a church basement, a very lovely church basement at that. And we work with our ELL students there primarily because a lot of times there are childcare challenges during the day when we offer those classes. And that church has a childcare room, and we've built some great partnerships I'll talk about in a little bit that allow us to have childcare for our ELL students during their time in class. Our high school equivalency classes, we also offer the English language learning classes and integrated education and training. IETs, we're hearing a lot more about those these days. And then the other one that we do is called a Workforce Education Initiative, or a WEI. I'm sure some folks may be familiar with that. Other states haven't really started doing as many of those yet. So we'll talk about some of those differences and how we build those types of relationships. They're a little different than the integrated education and training. For us, those IETs result in a national certification. But the workforce education initiatives can be much more specifically designed to meet the needs of an individual employer and exactly what they need for their program. So we'll talk a lot more about that. As far as where I'm from, I was asking around the room where everyone was from, what part of the country. COAB's a great opportunity for us all to get together and learn about all of the things we do, what we may do differently, what works in one area, what works in another. And so in terms of my background, I currently live in Indiana. Our oversight is through the Department of Workforce Development, can't talk this morning, instead of the Department of Education. That's where we were previously. We transitioned from the Department of Education to the Department of Workforce Development in 2011. And that transition is what really attracted me to work in this particular field. That was not my background prior to that. We are funded through state and federal funds. The WIOA Title II performance, spit that out. The WIOA Title II is where the state and the federal funds are from. And we are performance-based in Indiana, really looking at our outcomes, things like the academic gains, our HSE attainments, workforce certifications that are earned, post-secondary enrollments, and also employment factors. The NRS tables have a lot of those components, and basically we are looking at all those main metrics. HiSET and GED are the tests that we use in Indiana. They're currently approved for both tests. Recently, we switched over toward the GED, having come from HiSET, but a few programs are still doing HiSET in Indiana. It's nice to have options sometimes for students, and we do have a combined opportunity for them to work in both test options. So they can have part of their classes passed in HiSET and part of their subjects passed in GED. Test of Adult Basic Education is our enrollment test, and TABE Class E for ELL enrollment. So I know a lot of states use different things, but that's where we are. The state of Indiana actually is set up in 11 economic development regions. We are located in Region 7. You can see toward the center of the map. Region 5 is where Indianapolis is. So those of you that are looking forward to COABE 2026, yay, it will be in Indiana. You will be in that bright orange center there, right in the middle. My program is in Region 7, the closest to that orange. So we're near larger cities, but most of the cities around us are about an hour away. If I want to do any shopping, it's a little bit of travel time. But more than anything, we're a rural community, and we have some great opportunities in terms of the different openings within our employers. In terms of Indiana, we are ranked #1 in measurable skills gains nationally. Measurable skills gains including of course, getting the TABE scores up, improving a level gain, for example, when they go through a workforce certification course and achieve a workforce certification. Those are the national certifications that allow individuals to then complete their IET course. And whoops, sorry, I'm not a great technology guy here. In terms of rankings in the workplace enrollments, that was the workforce education initiatives I was speaking of earlier. Those are specific options for us to get into and work with employers on their particular needs based around workforce literacy, helping individuals be able to be more effective in their jobs. It is working with incumbent workers and making sure that the programs are specifically designed to help that employer achieve their needs. We are currently ranked #2 in career certifications earned. So those IETs come into play there. And #3 in high school equivalency diplomas achieved. And I cover these things because it's something that when I look at all of the numbers, and I'm a very data-oriented person, I like to know where we are at every given moment and tweak those numbers and get on track and make sure that we're focused on the right key things. And when I looked at that, Indiana is not a large state. We're kind of in the middle, but we are actually 17th in population. So we're very proud of what we've achieved. We've worked very hard from the beginning of WIOA. So in 2018, Indiana was already moving toward working with employers. We were already starting to implement a lot of those additional workforce features into our programs. And that transition has been pretty smooth for us over the years. We just keep building on those things. And I'm going to walk you through some of those areas. How do you look up your state info? I know that's always a good question as well. Those state rankings are all part of that NRS report. I've already uploaded some of these statistics to the WOVA app or HUVA, whichever way I'm supposed to say that. And those are available for you. But if you do want to have more information on that, there's a couple of additional links I'll be uploading afterwards. And we'll make sure that you have access to get into those areas and see what your state is doing, what your area, your region is doing, because I think it helps us kind of know what we need to focus on. It's already uploaded on some of those, and the rest will be coming as we finish up today. So why do I talk about Hoosier success, right? Indiana, we're the Hoosiers, if you don't know what I'm talking about there. But why do I talk about that? And it's really because employer partners are what got us there, right? We had to change the way we did our daily activities, the way we worked with our students. We had to make sure that we were focusing on the right things and helping them to transition, not just to get the GED or their high school equivalency, but to move forward and be able to actually have a job that's self-sustaining income in a high-demand field with high income. We want to make those kinds of changes. So those partnerships have been key to us, and we'll talk more about that. You'll see at the bottom there, I have put on the slide Workforce Engagement Group. And I'm going to kind of start there with really the meat of what we're going to cover today. The Workforce Engagement Group is something that was put together in our community. I'm going to go back for 1 second to that slide of Indiana. Those economic development regions are very different. They have different needs. But when we look at the economics of Indiana, we want to make sure that excuse me, we want to connect with the employers that are in our individual regions and meet their needs first. And that helps the state as a whole. So what we did with our Indiana, with our Greencastle area, is just start at the basics. And I talked to the economic development group there. I am on the economic development board. And so I went to our president and said, I'd really like to know what I can do to try and get some things moving. We've got great opportunities. We've got employers that need workers, and I've got students that don't have the skills. You know, what can we do to start getting this out there? Our economic development director was very excited to help us with that process. And what she did is create this workforce engagement group. We talked about the key components and who should be there. And I think that was the start of everything in our program in terms of our growth. We looked at educators, but not just us as adult educators, but also individuals that are in the high school system and even in the junior high system, elementary schools, realizing that we need to talk to people earlier about where they're going and give them a lot of options. She looked at introducing the superintendents to the employers, like the actual CEOs were who we invited first. And then also bringing together any of the key stakeholders in the community. So our mayor, our county commissioners, folks in our community foundation, those types of people. So in bringing that group together, initially it was a little bumpy. We had 1 or 2 superintendents to turn up to that first meeting. We had several employers because, again, they really need help in finding good people. And then the community mayor was there. Ended up being about 10 or 11 of us. And over the years, it's really grown and changed. Some of the things we did to make it grow were to take any of those individuals were invited on a tour of our local advanced manufacturing community. We have Crown Equipment. They're an international company, and all their forklifts were one of their main locations. And we have Ascena Retail. They're a clothing marketer or clothing distribution hub, I should say, for a lot of the different Ann Taylor brands. They just acquired Chico's, those types of clothing companies. I believe they have 7 different options now. I'm kind of hesitating because they just changed their name. Now they're called Knitwell, so I'm still stuck on the old Ascena name, but at the time they were Ascena. And so we talked to those advanced manufacturers and we said, you know, what could we do to bring some people in and let them see that advanced manufacturing is not a dark, dirty, you know, stand around and do the same thing over and over type of a job anymore. We want them to see your technology. We want to know what's going on in those facilities. And so they set up some tours, and we toured an automotive parts facility. We toured Crown, as I mentioned, with their forklifts, and then also Ascena. The superintendents all attended that first one. They also had a lot of other businesses were coming to see what each other were doing. So it's kind of an eye-opening experience. Since then, it's really helped us to grow. Those superintendents went back and said, hey, I want my principals to see that, and I want my guidance counselors to see that. And I want people in our community to know that those are high-paying, good jobs. One of the tours Crown gave, they were talking about the starting pay for all of these different positions, and even some of the teachers that were there going through are like, wait a minute, I had no idea that's how much these folks are making. What am I doing? So it's only been a positive in our community, but it did have some bumps and some hurdles as we got started. I want to give Kristen credit for really spearheading it. I'm like, these are the people I'd like to have talked, hear about what's going on, but I don't know them, right? So talk to the people in your community that are the key folks that can help you get out there what you actually do. Because before, our program was known just for the GED. That's the GED classroom. That's the GED test center, right? And people just walk by and literally the hand is there, right? So what we wanted to do is just get it out there that we were starting to do these workforce programs. So that's kind of where we started. At this point, we have about 50 to 60 people that attend that meeting every other month. We started out monthly. We found that was too much. We moved it to bi-monthly, and at this point, it has grown to that point. In addition, we have all superintendents that attend nearly every time. We have all of our city management, so our mayors, our commissioners, our city folks, trying to think of who else, all of the different, I think there's 11 different employers that come. Sometimes it's an HR manager, sometimes it's the CEO, sometimes it's the hiring department head for that group that's hiring. So we leave that up to them. We just try to build it so that they all know that they can come to that location and share where they are and what they need. And it literally is a conversation where we talk to each individual person and they get a few minutes to say what's going on in their company, what their needs are. We're hiring now for welders. We're starting at this amount of pay. At 5 years, they'll be making this. We need second shift, we need third shift, whatever it may be. They talk about exactly what's going on right now in their companies. For me, and what I try to do for our students is make sure we know what we can recommend for them. And so initially I was taking a lot of notes and saying, okay, great, now I know what everybody's paying and what positions they need. It's evolved into something where they actually send me their job opening lists before they actually post them. We get those on our job board first, and we know what's coming a month or so ahead. So again, we'll talk about some of those other things a little bit further into the presentation, but I think that foundational start for us was all about that workforce engagement committee, making sure that we were getting the right information from the right folks and that they were understanding why we needed to know that, right? We wanted to be able to make sure we're sending them the right types of people. I'm going to jump to a quick case study, just a story of a gentleman that we worked with, and I think that'll give you kind of an idea of how that's evolved and how it can really impact your students. This is a picture of Michael, and Michael is one of our students that we worked with actually several years ago. There's so much. Michael wrote me a full page another essay when I told him I was going to mention him this week, and he just wanted to give me an update on everything he's done since he left our program. We started out with Michael back in 2019. He came in, walked in our door, and he was finally 18, and he said, I can take control of my own life right now. And I said, well, great, we're glad to have you here. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I've been in your parking lot 4 times. And he just started crying right then and there. It was just he and I sitting in the room. And he said, I finally made it in the door. So that first meeting was really just kind of a let's talk kind of situation. But the nutshell version for Michael is that his mother had taken him out of school in 1st grade. He'd been homeschooled with his siblings, but he said homeschool is just a term. It didn't really equate to his life. He had great neighbors. He loved to learn. They did have computer access. He said, I spent a lot of time teaching myself a lot of things, but there wasn't a lot of schooling in our homeschool. When we first started Michael into classes, he was at an NRS level 2. He could read, but he struggled with vocabulary. I asked him where he learned most of the words that he knew, and he said, oh, that's when my dad, who's an over-the-road truck driver, when he comes home, we work on cars, we work on the farm equipment, and we talk about things, and he'll tell me what something is, and I'll ask him to tell me more. And he said, I learned so much, but he's only home 1 week every month. You know, he travels a lot, and that was one of his big challenges, was just having enough time with the people that wanted to educate him. He did 140 hours in our classroom in order to pass his high school equivalency exam. He did another 79 hours immediately after that, taking our very first logistics course, which is a Manufacturing Skills Council Certified Logistics Associate and Certified Logistics Technician course. It's designed to help educate individuals who want to work in that industry on all the things that happen in an advanced manufacturing facility for transportation and logistics. So the products come in, this is regarding our local Walmart distribution hub. The products come in, and within 3 days, they've cycled all the way through and they're back out the door to another program or to another facility. So on that side of it, Michael was interested in that. He'd basically worked at UPS briefly, got a little bit of work experience, but didn't have much of a resume. So what this class allowed him to do was take that knowledge in, understand that whole process, and then be able to have a certification exam that showed that he held those skills. Our local Walmart distribution had asked us to provide that class because nationally they will guarantee an interview to anyone that holds that certificate. And so we took Michael over and he did a tour of the facility, was part of the class. So they saw all 16 positions that were entry-level openings. And when he got his interview, they asked him, which of those positions are you most interested in? And our students get to choose which one they are focused on. He was hired into that position. He had not yet passed his high school equivalency. So he was still coming to class every week. And he went ahead and started there at age 19. He was making $19.50 an hour his first day, starting with no outside work skills in this position. He was 18 years old and, like I said, did not yet have his diploma. He continued working, got his diploma, checked back with me at that point and said, hey, I'm 22 now. I'm making $22.70 an hour. I work a 3-day shift, so he was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12-hour shift, and he said, and I'm excited to tell you I'm also going to go work for a machine shop. I want to learn more mechanic stuff. So then he worked at a machine shop for the other days of the week. So he worked for the next 2 years. He's now 24, so he worked the next 2 years just every day, working hard, doing what he needed to do, saving money. And a few weeks ago, he called me again and he said, Laura, I'm thinking I'm about ready to buy a house. And I've been saving up my money and I'm so excited because I know that I've paid off my car. I've got a truck that can get me to work. I'm doing all the things we've talked about. And he said, I met the girl that I think I'm going to ask to marry her. I'm going to ask her to marry me this summer. And I just wanted to come in because I feel like I need a career change. And I said, okay, well, come on in. Let's talk about all these things. And so he came in to the classroom and we sat down. We just, come on in. We had lunch with him. And he was telling me that he had gone to his employer's HR department first to see what opportunities actually Walmart had, okay? And when you look at that, part of what we talked about through the time that Michael was with us is that you didn't have all the support you needed when you were a child or when you were growing up, but that stops here. You will always have us, and we will make sure that we introduce you to the right people that can also be mentors and also be helpful for you as you grow throughout the rest of your life. And keep doing what you're doing. Ask good questions, show up, work hard, right? Those are the things you control. Make good decisions. So he had been doing those things. He'd been checking in with that same HR manager that helped him in the initial hiring. And she immediately said, you know what, Michael, you've always had an interest in transportation. What about doing the CDL truck driving side of it? We have a transportation hub right next to us. We could use you over there. And so she looked into it. They're now going to pay for his classes so that he can get his CDL-A. We do CDL-B, so I can't do that one for him, but we'll help him get into the A class, and they are going to train him to be able to do the over-the-road driving. And he said, Laura, I'm going to make $110,000 a year my first year. I don't need 2 jobs anymore. So again, small town kid, grew up, worked hard. He baled hay all the years that he was home. And I'm just so proud of him and all the changes that he's made. Couple pictures here for you to look at. The teacher there on the side, Melissa, recently passed away, and that's kind of what connected us. I'd sent him a note just saying, hey, the lady that taught you how to read has passed away, but you were always one of her favorites, and I knew you'd want to know. So that picture was of her. This is the young lady that he plans to marry. You'll see in the center, there's kind of a little story there on the slides. I will upload all the slides after the presentation, but that particular letter is actually describing some of the things I just told you about. He was chosen as one of our IAACE, our Indiana State Association's Essay of the Year winner. Happened to be during COVID, so unfortunately we didn't have our conference that year. He didn't get to read his essay, and he didn't get his recognition, but we did a big deal for him at our school afterwards. And again, the picture that I love as well is the one on the far, the far left side there. If you look at the lady in the navy blue, that is his great aunt. He gives her total credit for every time his car broke down. She came and picked him up. She made sure he got to class on time. And literally, she even drove him to his last HSE test because he had an issue and couldn't get there, and he wasn't going to say no. I'm going to be there. I told you I'd be there. I'm going to be there. And so she pulled in and took care of it again. So I should have given her a big heart over her head in there, but she's very special to him. She's been the one that's always been there. And boy, did he have a crowd at our graduation. It was quite a fun event. And those are some of the awards over the years. Like I said, I met him at 18. He's now 24, and he stays in touch regularly. That's that lifetime learning, right? We all want our students to know that we're never going to give up on them, and they can always come back and talk with us. Those are some of the things when he was Associate of the Month, when he got to his 5-year point. The first day he sent me his name badge. Look, I got a name badge. And then those little chips, I love that. Their process at Walmart Distribution is every day you walk in, you get a chip. By the end of the day, you've got to give it to someone who made your day better, who made our another employee's day better, those kinds of things. Just take that and give it to someone that helped you that day, or that you saw that did something above and beyond. And what a great concept. I think I'm gonna have to steal that. But he sent me a picture one day of all those chips he got, and the note said, "Thank you for always going above and beyond what is expected. Today you stepped up and stayed late, even though you've worked 3 days of 12-hour shifts, and you filled in for another 12 hours. We're so happy to call you our associate," that kind of thing. Excuse me. I will get choked up. You should know that. But anyway, why do I tell you these kinds of stories? I want to point out that, again, those employer partnerships are key, and you'll see that as we move through the rest of the presentation. But why should educators build employer partnerships? I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I'm trying to get my fingers going here. This is a very different laptop. Bear with me. There we go. Pull a few of these up anyway. So first of all, why should educators build employer partnerships? Because WIO tells us to, right? We've known that we're supposed to do that. We all started doing that. Like I said, we started back in 2018 and have just been incrementally adding additional things in. Our state leadership was amazing in that. They went through those things and determined what were the first things we should be implementing and how do we go about that. We've had a very, very thorough exposure to what workforce looks like. And many of you may have that same situation in your states, but what we found is it really does make a difference when all of your staff know what you're building and why. We all need to increase enrollments, and that's a very important thing. In terms of increased enrollments, half of my students every year, so that 150 that will hit or exceed this year, half of those students were here for the or in our program for their GED or their high school equivalency, but the other half are there for workforce. They already have their diploma. Some of them even have some college. Those are people that weren't coming in my door before we started working with employers. Okay, so as we look at that, that's a big way to increase our enrollments. Employment pathways, that was something I was always passionate about. I wanted them to get more than just their high school diploma or high school equivalency diploma. I wanted them to have something that could make them really grow and stay in our community. Measurable skills gains, as I mentioned before, those IETs, those classes, those certifications that they get, those count as a measurable skills gain as well. So that helped us grow those. Performance incentives, right? Again, our state is ahead of the curve. We are directly looking at those statistics day in and day out. We know what we need to hit. We set goals every year. Again, I know all of your states probably do that as well, but I appreciate the structure and the fact that we know what we need to hit, not only in our individual programs, but as a state as well. Those performance incentives are money that come back to us when we do what we say we're going to do. And certainly building those relationships with employers will help you open those doors for students. Michael could not have gone on to that Walmart distribution website, clicked career help, put in an application. He would not have been hired. I don't say that for me. I say that because the HR manager said, we don't talk to 18-year-olds. We don't, we aren't looking for people that don't have any work history. We want someone that's had, some good work experience. But because he came through that program and she was open to realizing that he had gone the extra mile, he got that opportunity. So opening those doors. All of our IETs have that component where we take them on a tour of a facility where they could be working so that they see it ahead of time. We start off the class with that. We end the class when they get the certification with those interviews and helping them schedule those kinds of things. So, why should employers build educational partnerships? Think about it from their side. Why do they want to work with us? Those are even more important to me. Need more workers, right? At least in our community, we have a lot of growth happening. There are great companies that pay well, and they just keep paying better and better, but they need more people, and we don't have enough in our small community to fill all of those jobs. They want to be able to retain the workers that they have and attract new workers. We're a good source for that. Employee advancement, that's another area. One of our employers that we met early on in working with our first IET, the welding IET, that one was with Crown, and Crown now actually sends us individuals from their assembly line. When they've maxed out their pay there, they're given the option to come and take our welding course. Once they take our welding course, again, another 5 years gets them to full pay there. And right now we have a CNC machine operator class that's happening tonight. And the students in that are both from Crown, and they are now taking the CNC course so that they can move into that next tier and get some leadership options there at Crown. So our employers over those same years, right? We started that back in 2018-19. So over that time, they've grown with us, and they now see the value in it. They don't want to lose good people, but they know they will if they can't move up anymore. And so they've changed their system and actually even pay for the cost of our training. So I don't have to use any of our grant dollars or any of our funding. They pay for their employees to get that training. And I think that's something that more and more employers are willing to do. We just have to remember we can ask them. Quality management is key. Sometimes they've asked us to do OSHA safety classes or, different options for other employers. Walmart had us do an Excel training in their classroom for some of their office staff. Safety requirements, kind of hit on that. Language barriers, that's a newer one for us. Again, a very small community. The language barrier issue has become interesting with one of our employers called Bootsy. Buzzi Unisum is an Italian-owned company, and they contacted us initially to work with them on some welding projects. And this year they asked if we could help tutor one of their engineers, a very high-level engineer in this concrete factory. And they wanted us to help him be a better presenter and be able to answer questions and be able to make eye contact and just do some of those things that we find a little more basic. But he'd get nervous, and in his own language, he'd speak very quickly, and his other supervisors couldn't understand him. So we've been working with him for a year, and he's doing much better. He's also much happier. Think about how you feel when you know you're not doing what you really are capable of, or you have trouble spitting it out, like I'm doing a little bit today. You want to make sure that people understand that you are sharp, you know what you're doing, you've got it covered, and these are the things you need to know. He was a night supervisor, so he'd come in the morning and he'd have to tell everybody coming in for the day shift what happened overnight, what he'd done, how'd it work. He was having trouble doing that. So they reported back, and he's doing much better. We're going to continue doing that, and we've actually added his wife, who's here with him, and they are both utilizing our Burlington English subscription and working on it outside of class. And instead of in the classroom, we have a tutor that meets with them one-on-one, and they meet weekly. So that's been an interesting one to add. And really, employers want to have goodwill in their communities. They want to share what they're doing with the community. And so we found that there's a lot of that happening as well. Adult education is really a low-cost option with high return, right? We have things that we can teach to their employees. So we work a lot with incumbent workers now. And then how do these partnerships impact the community? Certainly by lowering unemployment. This button. When we lower unemployment, then we can keep those employers growing. They can attract more people to work and retain their good employees. We're looking to fill jobs in all sectors. I've talked a little bit about some of the advanced manufacturing. In a moment, we'll kind of click through some of the other ones, the other groups that we work with. But we're focused in our program on finding the right position for the individual student, and I'm sure many of you do the same thing. What are your career interests, right? What do you really like to do? Have you ever walked down the street and said, oh, I'd really like to do what that person's doing. That looks like an interesting job. So we look at things like that and try and help them choose, but we want to work in all sectors. And I look at it from a community perspective as I want my small town to stay small, but I want it to be filled with great people. Right? I want to have great education for students in the school systems. I want to make sure that there's a lot for people to do. We have a college in our town as well, DePauw University, and they're about 3,000 of our 10,000 people, right? So we're partnering now more and more with DePauw to do things that increase the ability of our community to do what we need to do. Increasing that tax base. The community is better when there's more funding to do those things. Decrease the need for supportive services, quality of life for families, right? Went too far. You all are very familiar with those particular types of challenges in the community. So increasing that tax base, decreasing the need for supportive services, quality of life, and really that quality of life is the key to me. Making sure that we're doing things that help everyone in the community move forward. So I'm going to walk through these partnerships that we built first, just to give you some ideas. Our very first one was McDonald's, right? Everybody's got one. Usually the bigger towns have a lot more than one. We just have one, but it's a very good one. And we basically walked in and talked to the manager, asked to talk to the manager, and the gentleman laughed and he said, Laura, I'm the owner. I said, okay, well, you're a hard worker. That's who I wanted to talk to. So we talked, and basically he was about to retire. His sons were taking over the business. He really didn't work behind the counter, but he really was never going to let anything slide. So we talked about the fact that we have a lot of students that have never had a job or that are needing a good first job, and that I thought McDonald's might be that place to go. He was excited about that, and he said, well, I talked to a lot of people that don't have a diploma, and that's why they're working with me. They can't really get a job anywhere else. So I gave him some cards and said, hey, every time you come across one of those people, send them to me. I said, I'll make sure we get you anybody that needs a good job. And we started off there. Down the road, we went into more on the college assistance side. They had a program they added a few years back where they'll actually cover the cost of college for people that are working for them at least 15 hours a week, $2,500 a year. If they're a manager, I think it's $3,500, $32 or $3,500. And so they wanted to start helping with college. And that was not just our local, that's nationwide. And then lastly, he said, hey, by the way, we also would like to support the individuals that work with us. I want to pay their GED testing fee. So they've added that in. The next one, let's see here, is Crown Equipment. Crown, we started with them, as I mentioned before, in welding. That grew into other openings they had coming up in CNC. CNC is computer numerically controlled machine operation. And that is a very high-tech piece of equipment that does the work, but you've got to either be able to program it or run it without breaking things. So basically, that training is something that there are, I couldn't even tell you how many, probably 40 or 50 different certifications. We do the very entry-level safety measurements and materials, and then we do the CNC machine operator. Those are the two certifications we do in our course. Those are specific to what Crown needs. They don't need them to already know how to run the big machine. They need them to know all of the other things that go before it. So we designed both our welding and our CNC courses with input from Crown. We also had input from another employer, Dixie Chopper, on those courses because they also use us. And then with Crown, the growth included temp to hire. When there weren't enough people to take those jobs, they decided that they would go ahead and hire somebody without a high school diploma, but they'd only do it through a temp service, and they would only let them continue working if they also re-enrolled or enrolled with us, not re-enrolled. So 2 parts to be able to work there. You can do it through a temp, but you got to go to school. And so as soon as we get that diploma, I email over to their HR department and say, these are the folks that have passed and they're ready to go. And they immediately get pulled back into the interview process, as long as they've had good attendance and they've done it in a timely fashion, right? These jobs are still on the listing board, but they have an opportunity to get in and get it done. Crazy story from just 2 weeks ago. I had a phone call from a gentleman saying, I'd like to talk to you about getting my high school equivalency. And so I called him back. He called in the morning. I called him back at noon at my lunch. And I said, well, we can get you in today. We've got an orientation at 1 o'clock. Come on in. He came in. He started at 1 o'clock on Thursday. He came in all day on Thursday, all day on Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday he'd passed all of his tests. He came in, he tape tested, he did 12 hours. We got into the GED ready tests. We practiced each of those subjects. He had high scores in each. His issue was that he didn't go to school. It wasn't that he wasn't capable of going to school. So he did each ready test, then we'd test that subject. Next day, we'd work on the ready test, take the next subject. He didn't need us. He just needed us to walk him through it, right? So from Thursday morning when he called, Wednesday the next week, less than 7 days, he had completed that process. I emailed the HR department and he got back into the interview process that day. So it can go that fast.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Those type of boot camp classes are critical in Indiana. We do them in a lot of programs all across. We've got tons that are like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of boot camp. You got to test at a certain level. You got to tape in at a certain level to be ready to go. But that really has been critical in increasing our HSEs because the folks that are ready to go, we get them in, we get them done.
And for our online folks, Marilyn's our state director, she was talking about boot camps that we do for a lot of different things, but specifically get them in, get them out, have them tape test. If they're high level, don't slow them down, right? Get them in there, group them together and get after it. Yes?
I have a question, because we consider that type of like boot camp class, but the issue is you never know how many, if you have an orientation of 15 people, you never know how many people in that are going to be that level where they can
Correct.
actually complete that boot camp. So, and then, so how do you get a teacher on board to do
Absolutely.
that? Like,
Yeah.
how does that all work?
Sure. Well, we do our orientations, and that's where they tape test, and we go through all of those things. So we see their scores, then they qualify to get into the boot camp classes.
So what if
Okay.
you have one person? You have
I'm a small program. We do it for one person. Okay? But again, I see your challenge. It could be harder in a larger situation, but realize that for those students, they need it now, right? We aren't going to do anything to hold them back. And I know it's harder in a larger program, I'm sure, but our teachers also do orientation. We wear a lot of hats, I'll leave it at that. But find a way to do it, it will be worth it. She's not kidding. That's another reason why Indiana is hitting those high measurable skills gains. As a state, we're at about 70? Last year, 70?
Our reported number is 75%.
Yeah.
SGs last year.
Yeah. So, but that's why, right? Show those folks that are ready, quick response, and you will get great results. And they will share that with others. What that's done is it spurred several other people at that higher level to come in the last couple of weeks. And I'm excited to see where we end up this year, because I said, he's like, what can I do to thank you? I'm like, tell other people. Tell them how fast you did it, how easy it was for you. Tell them how important it is to just get in here and get out of the excuses, right? I got to keep moving. I'm going to get, oh my goodness. Okay, so anyway, Walmart distribution, you can see those there. And this will all be on the slides, but each of those has a story of how we added it in. And I just want to let you all know, again, I'm a small program. If you call me, you're going to talk to me. I'm happy to help you with some of those logistics on starting. This is a small group in here, and certainly we can do some things to kind of help you jumpstart that if you haven't done it yet. Walmart distribution, logistics, and IETs. 3 city governments, that started with our own mayor saying, hey, I got a guy that can't drive the street truck. Will you teach him CDL? I said, I don't have a truck. I have an instructor, but I don't have a truck. Well, the Duke Energy guy heard me say that at that meeting, again, workforce engagement group. And he said, guess what? I've got a truck. I'd like to retire. And so they donated a truck to us. We borrowed the high school's CDLB instructor. We got it started with that one recommendation from the mayor. And from there, we now do 3 different city governments. Every year, we do all of their training. They will hire people that don't have the license and send them to us to get that done. We have 3 county street departments, and those are different counties all around us. So our reach is no longer just in our small town. We're working with Hendricks County, we're working with Montgomery County, Putnam County, and then all of the different street departments. My slide's wrong. We just started a 4th county. So a lot of things happening. Once the word gets out, the challenge becomes, again, we're small. How do we handle the volume of people that want to do it? We have a wait list on that. They're all in order, and they get their permits. We do the knowledge portion, then they get to see the instructor on the driving side. So there are ways to do it, large or small, but be excited about that growth and realize that all you have to do is start that process, begin to talk to those employers, and those employers are going to be the ones that drive all of the other things you do down the road. Power companies, that's another one. I had to turn 2 power companies down because they wanted us to do the whole state's worth of people. And again, even if we do group teaching, we can't do that. We're not that big. So 3 different regions, Hendricks Power and Light, Crawfordsville Light Company, and Park County. So anyway, additional partnerships. Okay, I know this is getting a little monotonous. I'm gonna fly through it. The reason I'm doing it though is realize we just started doing these, and it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. We have 3 employees and 2 part-time workforce instructors. If we can do it, you can do it and do it a lot bigger. as we go through Bootsy, that's the one I just talked about with ESL. They started with us on the arc welding side. They had temps, again, that temp to hire. If they go through the temp service, they have to register with us. The temp service had nothing to do with that. They didn't tell them about us. No matter how many flyers or how many cards I took over, they didn't tell tell those students that. But the employers stepped in and said, I will not hire you unless you do both. That's huge, right? That's support. That's what we need. Dixie chopper, fancy zero-turn mowers. We do welding for them, CNC machine operators. New ones in the discussion phase. This one, Chiota, that's one of our other manufacturers. They are busing in people to our small community just to fill their jobs because everyone else is getting skilled up and moving into different positions. They asked us to do this ELL training a year ago. We couldn't really do it because the shifts were not working. We're still trying to work some of those details out, but they have about 20 people they'd like us to train there. The YMCA at Greencastle, they just opened on March 1st of this year. Went over and met with them and talked about programs I'd heard about from other presentations about Child Watch being part of YMCA process. Ours is going to have that as well, but we took it to the next step and determined that it would make sense to partner together. And she offered to send our folks, send over the Child Watch people to us in the facility. And so they're coming to us in 2 locations. And again, I'm gonna keep going. Forklift was another one that we had donated. Now I just need a building to do the training in. So we're still working on that. Move on to another case study. I can't see the time. Treg, how much do we got left?
Probably 5 minutes and then.
Oh my, all right, we're gonna fly. Sorry. Anjali is one of our students, and again, she started out with the GED, then she got her CNC machine operator license. You can see the picture of her there in her face mask. What she found is after she went out and worked, made some good money, she wanted to buy a house. When she bought the house, there was a home inspection, and she met a gentleman that did an incredible job of inspecting her home. He's in the center picture right there. That is now her mentor. She decided she wanted to become a home inspector. You can see her working with him. He was wanting to retire, so initially she had to get her licenses, helped her get that. Once she had her licenses, she started working as his part-timer, and he gave her his weekends. So she did any inspections that needed to be done on the weekends. She sent me her business card. She was so excited that day when she got her license. You can see where she bought her first car. And in the top corner, Chad, she went to Hawaii. They've never been to Hawaii, and she got to take her family to Hawaii. So she's doing big things in her life, and I'm so proud of her because she just keeps on working. When you get the slides, you'll be able to see some of her hashtags on her Facebook posts are like, inspect the unexpected, keep hard, work hard, all those kinds of things. So neat lady, excited for her. I'm gonna pop this up because I don't want you to miss anything. This is the grant side of it. So what happens when your community reacts to what you're doing and starts to understand you? Then they look at what can we do to help? Okay, so look at some of those amounts. And again, sorry, it's such small print, but I wanted to get it all in there. 12,000 came from 100 Men Who Care. That was to help me buy new equipment and put in more welding booths. We only had 3 welding booths. We needed 8. And so they helped us with that funding. 100 Men Who Care, they all donate $100 a month, and they decide every other month who they're gonna give it to. We have 120 in our 100 Men Who Care. 20,000 came from Duke Energy. That was before they actually did the truck side of it. So they did that for our CNC program. As you all know, startup is a lot of cost for programs. And so they helped us start that CNC program. The Duke Energy 12,000, that was for CDL. It was to allow us to train our instructor, and that retired truck they gave us needed a little bit of work. So that was to help us with that. Our state, again, wonderful state to be in. We got a technology grant there that helped us to buy more computers for our classroom. 5,000 from Walmart Distribution Community Grant, 17,800 plus 6,600, 20,000. Those were performance incentives over those same 5-year period. 10,000 from the county commissioners. I'm going to talk about that for a second because that's the newer one. That's a big step. We got to the point where we realized we really need to have a building so that we can do a lot more training. Right now, we share instructors with the high school side, so we're restricted to evenings. I know that's the same thing in a lot of places, but we cannot train more people unless we have a space to do it in. So we were talking about that. And I went before the county commissioners. They meet in January. And I just told them about us, what we do, what we've done, where we're going, what we want to do, and what we could do if we had their support. And I asked for $20,000. They said, great, thanks for your comments. We'll let you know. And, I went back to work. And a couple weeks later, I got a call and they said, we thought about your proposal, but we're not going to do that. We're going to give you 30. And so that first 10,000 was a lump sum to kind of help us stay open through the summer. Our dollars weren't stretching. We wanted to be open through the summer. And then the $2,500 a month was to get us to that 30,000 for the year. And then this year, these are some new ones that are coming up too. 5,000 performance incentive. That's an incentive for the first 6 months of the year. We reach for our goals. If we hit our goals, we share a pot of money for all the programs that achieve their goals. 30,000 in edit. They put us in this year as a line item on their budget, which means all I do is report back to them where I spent the money, meaning 3 kids went to, work at Cash Concrete with their CDL license, and this is where that money impacted our community. I use it for anyone that lives in Putnam County, anybody that works in Putnam County, and, anybody that is staying in our community. $9,800, that's a Dollar General literacy grant. Nationwide grants, guys. Any of these grants, when you see these slides, when you have them on your own, if there's any of those that you have in your area and you want help with that grant process, send me an email. I will be sure to share mine with you. One of those people that will, if I've done it and it worked, duplicate it, please. Don't waste your time inventing the wheel. What's next? That one I'm getting really excited about. Discussions are starting in our community about building that building. And we also just found out last week, not in my slide, we received one of the COABE NCCER grants, and we're going to be starting the apprenticeship program for construction and other areas. I'm just learning about it. Sunday was my first intro to that. I don't even know what we're doing, but we're doing it. And we're going to do it by October with the first class. So that's another one to look at. This next one I have to jump to because the only way I've ever found time to do what I do in building those relationships is by utilizing this particular product. I asked Treg, he's with the company, I asked him to be here today and be my tech support because that is not my strength. But these are the different areas that their customized program does, and it saves me so much time. It simplifies the process, it automated our systems, it made us able to have time to do what we do. They have cards that have these on there. That's why this slide is yellow, because I went there yesterday and I said, I want that on a slide. I want people to know that they need to come talk to you. These are the things that I actually use of theirs, those cards. That's what I give to an employer. The employer hands it to the student crosses the street and comes in. They can register from anywhere. The poster that you see there, that's on my door, that's at Dollar General, that's at every laundromat. A lot of our employers even have them in their lobby. That is a way for people to, again, I couldn't apply for the job, I didn't have the diploma, there they go. They can do it on their phone. It simplifies my graduation process. Our students get the Celebrate poster when they pass their last test, and they're able to scan it and give us their information, tell us their story. That's the part I love the most. We're not going to get to all of those, but basically those are the things that really make a difference and streamline your processes so that you have the time to build relationships with employers. And it is truly building relationships with those employers that are most important. Another student story I know we're not going to have time for. I will go back one though. And that way we can ask a couple questions, and my contact information's up there. Yes, ma'am.
And we will pass the mic around, so if you
Thank
have a
you.
question, sorry, Zoom it.
I'm sorry, guys, so much to cover, and I get into those student stories and I get stuck. Go ahead.
I can tell that you're passionate, and that's
Absolutely.
amazing. I may have missed this because I came in a few minutes late. How do you work with your local AJC, your local One Stop? Are you a part of that? What does that look
Absolutely.
like?
They are at the table. That workforce engagement group that I talked about, that is another one of those community partners that come in. Yes, Marilyn is from our state, and she can give you more answers there.
When you saw the map, that is the economic growth regions for the state of Indiana. So each one of those has AJC offices. That's how we set up adult education. It aligns completely with our workforce boards.
And we recommend people go to them and they send to us, and we also process a lot of our actual funding through them as well. Yes, so contact information is there. Please do contact me. I will upload these slides pretty quickly. We'll get them on the website. I apologize, I did not get through everything. I thought I was going to make it this time.
You're fine. We still have more questions. I was just checking
Okay.
online audience, make sure we're good.
Gotcha. All right, well then let's have more questions.
Yes, so I'm also from a very small rural location in Maine,
Sure.
and we're trying to build those connections. How did you get over the initial hump of the stigma with adult ed and trying to show community members like we can help in
Yes.
businesses and all that sort of stuff, because we're struggling?
Yes. I actually uploaded to Whova or Wova, whichever way I'm supposed to say that, a quick start guide that again has been put together by our state. It's exactly when they did it, I was like, whoa, that's exactly what I did. The questions are even pretty direct. It tells you what to ask. Realize that you're going to get some no's, but a lot of times the reaction is kind of a shocked look, and they're like, I didn't know you did workforce. I didn't know you trained welders. I didn't know we had that in our community. You will be very surprised at the reaction you get. And that's a presentation. Actually, I have one that I did last year in Nashville was just about that. How do I start? What do I do? Who do I talk to? How do I even begin? Because that's the scary part. But like I said, I walked into McDonald's, right? It can start that small. Yes.
And I know one of the advantages you had too was the 24/7 access. A lot of those employers are on different shifts, so sometimes there's fear that like, well, you're not open when our employees are here. So that was like where those signs and stuff made a difference. We'll go here
Right.
and there.
So in Rhode Island, about 10 years ago, they did what they called Real Jobs RI. They actually said, training programs, get together with employers and figure it out. And we're going to sponsor that. You need to get a bunch of employers at the table, align what they need for training.
Absolutely.
And do that. Also, if you have a check out the Westerly Education Center. We have Electric Boat. They could not find enough workers there. They built this incredible education center, small neighborhood.
Right.
And they train people for all sorts of jobs at Electric Boat. And it's very, very cool. It's this big hangar where they're welding and they're doing all these things that are needed.
And your students need to see that, right? To get them in too. And that's where we plug that into our ITs to make sure that they can see what I'm working toward. Very good. Next question.
Yes, I was curious, you said you had gotten on the county's budget with a line item.
Yes.
Exactly how did you do that? Because that is huge, especially for a rural, small county.
It is huge, but it happens because of those folks understanding what we're really about. What they said to me is, we realize that you're taking folks that often are unemployed or unemployable and helping them become employees. And then you're also able to skill them up and teach them the soft skills that they need, those kinds of things. And we didn't know that was possible. But if you can do that, that helps our unemployment go down. That brings up incomes in the town. This is easy. They were happy to do it. Like I said, I asked for 20, they gave us 30. So yeah, great question. But they are as excited about what we do now as we are. And I love the fact that we have those relationships, because it truly is a relationship situation. You will not get there if you're talking to a different person every time you go. Choose the right one, somebody's as excited as you are, and talk to them. Let them be your connection to whoever else you need to talk to. Yes,
So
Marilyn?
Laura's not talking about all the work that she does in advocacy and has done in advocacy. But part of it is, what is your message and what is your elevator speech on the program that you do? And so at the state level, we help, we're big data. I'm a big data person too, if you've ever been to any of our stuff. individuals in Indiana, 40% of them are working when they come to us. 4 quarters after exit, 70% of them are working. Tell any employer, any commissioner, any legislator that, and you will get their attention.
Our program, tiny as we are, our first quarter is 72 point something, and our fourth quarter is in the 80s. Okay?
And we
So-
are running out of time. We'll have
Okay.
another, but you're going to be at the Connectal booth after this if you want
I
to
will, and
re-engage
I'm-
with their, do we have another? We have room for, I think, like one more question.
Okay, one last caveat. The slides I'll upload will have a lot more information. I put a few extra things in there that you'll be able to see at the end. But we will get that in your hands quickly. If you have other questions, please let me know. If you want to meet, if you want to talk further in person, we can do that, or online, shoot me an email, and we'll be happy to set up a time to talk. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your attention, and